Hello there, people of the internet. I am pretty sure that I've told this story on this YouTube channel before, but I'm going to go over it again because I was actually watching a video online and it reminded me of this story. So I'm a certified NRA instructor and I do safety courses every now and then. And it's nothing extravagant. I just teach people basic firearm safety, and I certify them in handgun safety so they can get their concealed carry permit for the state of Florida. But there's been a few times where I will teach somebody, or I'll teach like several people inside of a class, and I will have, a couple of people who are a little bit more familiar and adept with firearms, who are there basically just for the certification. And you can tell that they're there just for the certification because they are extremely good and extremely knowledgeable with handguns. But then I will have people who are like absolute novices who will have never shot a gun before. And so I have to have an array of lessons inside of that course in order to be able to teach basically the fundamentals in a way to where the new people can understand it, while at the same time not really boring the people who are very familiar with everything. However, the concept behind, hold on, I'm fixing my hat here. The concept behind my training classes is they are based around teaching people the basic fundamentals and the basic safety principles whenever it comes to firearms handling, specifically handgun firearms handling. And every now and then we will get somebody who comes into the class who is used to being like a high-end, high-yield operator who is there taking the class for, I have no idea what kind of reasons. They don't need the certification, they don't need XYZ. I guess that they're taking the class to take the class. By all means, all are welcome. But whenever we are dealing with people who are used to just shooting rapidly and trying to be the tactical operator that I know that they are trying to be, and they are stuck with a certain course of fire over a certain extended period of time that is not very, what's the word I'm looking for, exciting and not very fast-paced, and we don't fire a lot of rounds all at once because we're teaching basic fundamentals and safety, those people tend to get a little bit more on the irritable side. So, for an example, I actually had a guy inside of a class, I don't know, this was 2 years ago at this point. It was a little while, approximately 2 years. That's just a rough ballpark. But, I had a guy inside of the class, and he was wanting to practice with his Glock, and I'm like, yeah, dude, that's absolutely no problem whatsoever. But I was over teaching somebody some fundamentals, and he's like, hey, you mind if I use the range while you go ahead and you teach that gentleman over there? I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely no problem. Go for it. So he sets up a piece of paper with like a pie pan size target on it. It's not very big, and he steps out to about 7 or so yards, and that's about normal. We have different markers for different yards. I think we got like 7, 10, 15, 25, 30, and 50 or something like that. But he steps out to 7 yards, and he draws his Glock, and he just absolutely mag dumps down at that target, and he does a speed reload. Like he had full magazines. He mag dumps, just absolutely emptied that mag immediately, and then he reloads immediately and mag dumps again. He clearly knew what he was doing whenever it comes to running firearms very quickly. The only issue was that he got about a third of his rounds actually on the paper. The rest were on the cardboard target that you staple the paper to. They were just scattered all over the place. He actually hit the PVC piping that I was using to hold the target up, and that was a new experience for me at 7 yards. But this guy was, he clearly enjoyed shooting fast, and that was just kind of his thing. But most people aren't going to be focused on shooting fast. Most people aren't going to be focused on trying to look as cool as possible. They would be focused more along the lines of, what's the word I'm looking for? Practical shooting, being able to actually hit their target and be effective. Yeah, at the 7 yards that guy was at, it was quite embarrassing, especially because his Glock had a red dot on it too. That experience still makes me cringe, actually. And I was actually teaching an old guy how to use a semi-automatic handgun, and both me and him just kind of like stare over at this guy whenever he's just mag dumping. And whenever he's out of that, whenever he finishes with those 2 magazines and we see like barely any of his rounds actually hit that paper target at 7 yards, I look over to the old guy, he looks at me, and the old guy starts chuckling. Oh God, I love doing that. I love that job. Anyway, most people aren't going to be focused on, the very fast tactical mag dumping. They're not going to be focused on trying to look cool. They're going to be focused on getting enough skill to be able to effectively use a firearm for the practical applications that most people are going to come across. That's just one example of somebody who is doing something that is not going to be taught inside of the class. Another example, I remember one time we were teaching semi-automatics, and I can't quite remember what the course was. But one of the people that was inside of the course, we were just teaching like very bare minimum basic fundamentals like load, unload, get them safe. This is how you hold your handgun. This is how you shoot it. If you're shooting something that has a hammer on it, watch it so you don't get hammer piped. If it's semi-automatic, don't put your thumb behind the slide, etc., etc. We were just teaching the basic fundamentals of semi-automatics because we had several people there who were very new to gun ownership, and they had no idea how to actually operate their firearms. Well, we had one older gentleman, cargo shorts, he had cargo vest. I don't know if he was an NRA guy or not, but he was an older gentleman, and he thought that the training that we were giving was too low par, too under-challenging, what's the word I'm looking for? He thought the training we were giving was not adequate enough because he was wanting like high yield, high-end tactical operator training. He wanted to like army crawl and fire off of barriers and go through vehicles and things like that. And despite the fact that the class was called Basic Pistol Safety and something along those lines, Basic Pistol Safety and Fundamentals or something like that, he wanted to be able to like zigzag his way through an obstacle course while shooting. Most people aren't going to be like that. Most people aren't going to want to have to... I know we teach a lot of elderly people who are very new to firearms, and we teach a lot of younger people who are also very new to firearms who just have no idea what they're doing whenever it comes to firearms platforms. People like that, which is what we are gearing more towards, what we are focused more on teaching, people like that are not going to want to run a half-mile obstacle course while firing their handgun. Now, that would be cool. It would be cool to set up something like that. That would be actually a really fun firearms course to run. Food for thought for the future. But most people aren't going to be wanting to do something like that. And for the most part, whenever it comes to running practical drills for practical people, you just want to teach them the fundamentals and the safety aspects and how their gun actually works. They don't need to know how to disassemble and reassemble an AR-15 while blindfolded in 15 seconds, a lot like, some hardcore gun guys will try and do. As far as I'm concerned, as long as they can effectively utilize their firearm in a practical manner that is applicable to most of the situations that most of these people are going to come across, then I've done my job. A lot of them show up and they have absolutely zero idea how to fundamentally use their firearm, right down to the point to where they don't even know how to load the ammunition into the magazine. I'm sure a lot of us have seen people like that. They don't know how to load the ammunition into the magazine or rack a round into the chamber or operate the safety or where to put their thumbs or how to hold their firearm or how to pull the trigger without pulling it left and right. Just the basic fundamentals. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a Ruger Mini 14 and 223. If you are teaching somebody how to use a rifle, I don't care what kind of rifle it is, set yourself up a target at like say 25 yards. We're at about 40 or so now. But set up a rifle or a target for a rifle at 25 or so yards, and then have that person send some lead down range with it, and then see how effective that person is. And then keep coaching them until they are effective enough to be able to hit, say, a pie plate sized target at 25 yards. And that is effective enough for a brand new shooter to have dramatically increased in their capabilities. Now, if you want to teach them like bench resting and whatnot, that can go off to more extensive courses and more extensive teaching to get them more and more and more accurate. But if they can hit a pie plate at 25 yards, then that is a job very, very, very well done if you're dealing with a new shooter who had no idea how to operate a firearm at all. So that 25 yards at a pie plate target, that right there is going to be accurate enough and capable enough to handle most of the situations that your average day citizen, not your tactical operator, not your gun tuber like myself, not your fancy competition shooter, not your drill instructor runner, not your high-end gun guy. Basically, just the typical individual that most people are going to be here in this society. Most of them will be able to handle basically every single problem that they would ever come across. I got the hiccups. Most of them would be able to handle every single problem that they come across with that level of efficiency with their rifle. Now, if you got yourself a handgun, basically do the same exact thing, except instead of the 25 yards, you're going to set them up at, say, 7, maybe even 10 yards, depending on your target and ammunition choice. I think after that, you teach them the fundamentals, how to hold the thing, etc., etc., and you get them hitting that pie plate at 7 yards. And that right there is accurate and effective enough for somebody to be able to protect themselves in most defensive situations. Of course, once you go beyond that 7 to 10 yards, then you start getting into questionable areas of defense and more along the lines of murder. So we definitely don't want to put anyone at risk. But if they can hit a pie plate size target at 7, potentially even 10 yards with a handgun, then that is accurate enough for most civilian applications to be able to handle most of the things that that civilian is going to need to handle. And that is dramatically more effective than a huge amount of the population will be able to do. So all of this being said, that's only a couple stories. Like, I could probably make several videos talking about stories that are very similar and on par with what it is that we're discussing here. But most people will receive training that is easy to understand. They will receive the safety and fundamental portions of how to actually use their firearm and how their firearm functions, how to, clear it, safety check it, etc., etc. And then we get to the point of shooting it and being accurate enough for distances that most things are going to take place in. Now, like I said, we could take a more advanced class and have them shoot out to longer distances, but a good amount of people aren't going to take that more advanced class and learn how to shoot at longer ranges. They're going to think to themselves, all right, well, I have an AR at home, and my home is 25, like the longest spot in my home is 25 yards, and I can shoot a pie plate target, size target, and that 25 yards. I hear the dogs barking. So I guess I have company. But that pie plate at 25 yards, I can do that, or 7 yards with a handgun, I can do that. So that is good enough for them. And so most people end up not returning for the more intensive courses. All of this being said, thank you ever so much for watching. Have you guys ever had an experience like this? I bet you have. All this really left kind of a bad taste in my mouth, because some of the situations are fun and they're funny, others not so much. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. And I reckon I will see you guys on the next episode. I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't